The glow of the neon, a flickering sign. She dances through shadows, a figure divine. With every vibration that cuts through the night, unraveling secrets and pulsing light. She's a spark in the void, illuminating dreams. Shiver of magic in silvery streams. Her voice is the ether, a sound like a stars, binding the realms, mending our scars. Free galaxies swaying, she's breaking the mold. Unused to the galaxies, a tale to be told. She straddles the borders of where we belong. With whispers of chaos, she sings her own song. While others are lost in the echoes of time, she turns every heartbeat to rhythm and rhyme. In a world full of noise, she's a delicate hush, a pulse in the dark, a celestial hush. Her voice is the ether, a sound like the stars, binding the realms, mending our scars. Free galaxies swaying, she's breaking the mold. Unused to the galaxies, a tale to be told. Her essence will linger, a flicker of flame in the dance of the cause, what she calls out a day.
Dance me away. And we want to breathe because we want to deal with tonight the question of how do you prove any of this? And me and Maria, of course, have been through this 14 million times, 14 for 14 years, 14 million times. And like all you can really be is authentic in the moment, right? And my first thought was to prove something in an illusion, you obviously would have to get away, get out of the illusion, right? And then on that note, that ringing note, let's project the rune of remember, the rune of recover, the rune of return. Because what? We got to remember what we forgot. But technology is blocking us. The technology put us in the dream. Once you realize you're dreaming in a dream, then we can get down to business. Because now, context is everything. Now, then, and forever. Right? Misunderstandings come from context. Misunderstandings suck. Misunderstandings lead to a boring life and boredom. Right? Truth be told. So, what is the key to remembering? If you were on the other side of the mirror and had already been revealed, the answer was, of course, hidden, and the answer was cleverly taught to you. How would you remember in a dream? If you were in a dream and you were like, hold it. I'm dreaming. How do I remember who I really am? It almost gets to a question because you've already realized there's no use praying to your dog. Your God might be your dog, and your dog might be your God. I'm talking about that ugly, stinking Bible and that ugly, stinking fictional gods that America continue to murder, kill, and cause the tidal wave of misery. And I'm sick of raving about it. It's done, it's dead, it's ugly, it's disgusting, it's greedy. How do you remember who you are? Member would be like to, put a puzzle back together. This is what Maria taught me. Because a lot of things are paralleling with opposites, and they're, juxtaposed, put side by side as if they're similar when actually they're opposite, right? Like the puzzle of worldly success. Maria talks about her favorite comic book verse, the Bible, the comic book. Because why have one? Because this is to turn the whole thing on the person who takes it literal, right? Well, it's a fictional book. We appreciate it. We actually know the author, not God, not your dog, but a tremendous, exceptional writer and artist known as Allah Lucifer, Jaja Shiva. And that's not Jehovah. Jah is not Jehovah. Jah is Yahweh. The, conclusion to the Sumerian, Iranian, Elamian, Elam, right? Elam, L-I-am. That's where our boy Big Lou was born. I mean, not born, but lived and grew up. He was born in northern India in a little village. He said if I said the name, no one would know. No one would care. He said, no one expected me to be what I became. Because no one expected my father to become who he became. Although we were, in a sense, distantly in the royal line of a, sort of democratic monarch, like the people had a say of a complete world government. She said, you would call it Atlantis. I mean, listen to this word. Is it La Maria or is it Lou Maria? Lou Maria. Lou Maria. Atlantis and Lou Maria. I guess that's a coincidence. And I guess it's a coincidence. And you can call me a liar. No one cares. No, it doesn't matter. We know who's listening. Maria knows who's listening. Do you think it's a coincidence that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to follow supernatural things? things. I mean, I really am saying things. Visions, dreams. This is while I was a Christian. And I believed that I believed that I was psychically connected. Back then I would say the spirit world. But today I would say the astral world, or the real inner earth world. And I believed. And it's a true story that we bought our first house that we ever purchased, bought. We bought it because it was close to my wife's mother. But the final decision was mine. And like I said, I was completely sold out to basing things on supernatural revelations. And so I went off alone. This is how I've always done shit. I went off alone. And, back then I thought it was the Holy Spirit. Now I know it was my true self. And my true self is fine with let me think that he is a Holy Spirit. And at the right time, people wonder, how did I get out of this? At the right time, my true self said, that's enough. This doesn't make sense, and pointed it out to me, and it was over. All the black magic, all the power of Christianity, the guilt, the fucking insane economic power, social power. And this gets to the verse, right, that I'm going to talk about with Mama. It's totally, you're born into it. And it's got all the power in the world. Remember, it had this much power. The British and white Europeans came over here to America totally, completely believing they were the new chosen, grafted in to the vine of Israel, and they came over here with a doctrine of manifest destiny that said God gave us this land, and if need be, we will kill men, women, children, and your animals. Does that sound familiar? Does anyone see a country doing that today, class? Over there, over there, over there. Yeah, lots of white people really come from the Middle East. Right. Yeah, you really look like, oh, you were born in Poland. Oh, you were born in Ukraine. Oh, you were born in Russia. Oh, you were born in Germany. So none of you are from the Middle East. No. We killed the Jews that were from the Middle East. We cleaned them out, that trash. This is what your British, Israelite, Christian Identity, Jews, powered by Aleister Crowley, the OTO, the Golden Dawn, but more importantly, the Process Hippie Church. Don't you see that, nigga? They came over here and they used the hippie to cause a synthetic drug problem to drive people straight into the arms of British Israel Christianity, which is this, rapture, end times. Once the temple is built and the nation of Israel is back and all that is British Schofield Darby. And because we're living in a time after time before Venus that never existed, from June 6th to this day does not exist. in real history. From June 6th on, in the, quote, real world, we say quote because even the real physical world, most people understand to be a projection as an individual. I am projecting myself into a world, and the real world is where the true self is, no matter what. Inside creates a whole world. And I'm told that this is exactly where virtual space is. In other words, where is heaven? Heaven is in the real space, in the space of the eternal orgasm. Like, what's that? Well, you're going to have to find out. Yeah, I might have to go back 200 hours ago and listen to every video and make the views go down. Yeah, it's funny, you watch, I'm not even going to say it. And so, how do we remember? And Maria, sitting right here, wants you to know what is happening to you through my son Joseph is as close as can be repeating of what was going on inside of me from the age of 22 to 27. Me and Sigrun, my sister, did hundreds and hundreds of these rituals to the point where and you can only know this by experience, we became one with the Amanita muscaria mushroom. She said, a lot of times we couldn't get marijuana. It was hard to get. We would take this, she said, this is what Lou taught us to do when we could not, we didn't have anything to smoke. You like to do something in this ritual because it lasts 3 or 4 hours. You want to do something with your hands because you're thinking so hard. This would be later in the ritual after you come out of your meditation, right? And you want to smoke. I hadn't smoked a cigarette because if I smoke tobacco, it's usually a cigar, and it's not nearly like Maria smokes. Maria smokes her own. She rolls her own cigarettes. Like she said, I've been doing this for millions of years now, and sticks them in a little holder. Like she said, became popular in the 1920s in Austria. She was like, cool people did it. I was cool. She was like, at least I thought I was. At least we joked about that we thought we were. And she said we were taught to make Amanita muscaria extract using alcohol, and then turn the alcohol extract, into a powder, by cooking it, evaporating all the alcohol out of it into this like red brownish powder. And she said we would, put that on top of tobacco in like a pipe or a bong. She said we had a bong. She said we had 2 or 3 of them always. For real. I mean, these girls were that's what they did. Instead of watching TV, they would smoke and read to each other. I asked her, what'd you do all the time? I mean, you didn't have TV. And like she said, we hated the radio. Like there was one music station. She said we didn't have very much choice. We basically had our records and our record player and books. And we would read to each other all the time. She was like, we just constantly read to each other. She said we'd do like divination things for what book should we read next. Like she said, and she said we were taking our reading list from Lou, of course. But like she said, I know these people like you don't, like Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, the other fuckers, McGregor from the OTO. Like, she's like, I know all these people. I read all of their works because I was doing the same thing. So we were super interested because she's like, it developed before our eyes. These people are actually evil. They don't have a shadow side. They have a evil side. Do you hear me? When are we going to deal with this? When the fuck are we going to deal with this? And if you dare say, well, that's why we're praying for them and God's going to forgive them. Man, get the fuck out of here. Get away from our people. You fucking wolf in sheep's clothing. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing, motherfucker. Any reference back to that is just out of the question. Out of the question. Because the time is now to be authentic, to be real. And check this out. Real change. You want to feel different. You have to make a real change. And we've been describing for hours. If anyone is completely with us, we've been describing for hours a very sophisticated, deliberate plan to brainwash the whole Western world is very much like this. You know what I mean? Europe, Canada, America, South America. And these, like, South American brown people, they're like this because of the Catholic fucking Church. We're going to keep saying it. It's a mantra. Christianity, I wish I could talk, in any of its forms, is a celebration of blood magic, a celebration of death and misery and despair. You're asking for it. You're bringing it on yourself. You're attracting it to yourself with this hypocritical, contradictory God, right? I'm going to die for the sins of the world. And at the last minute, Father, why have you forsaken me? I thought you wanted to do it. I thought you were the Father. If Jesus, the personality of Jesus, isn't Yahweh, what Father was he talking about? Joe, he's talking about God. God is Yahweh in the Bible, you dumbass idiot. I know Christians right now who you would say to them, give thanks and praise to Yahweh, praise Yahweh. They'd be like, who? Well, that's the word God is translated Yahweh because he's one of the Sumerian gods. They would just be like, we don't know anything about that. We believe in God. Do you see how fake that is? Do You see how pretend that is? It's just like pretend. You know what they're really saying is, we believe in this because the rest of the community does, the church does. What do you want us to lose our jobs, lose our business, lose our nice house, lose our nice truck? Well, nigga, your God said sell everything you got and come follow him. I didn't say that. He said that. And he also said, hate your mother, your father, your wife, and your children. And Christians try to add, in comparison to me, I mean, that's even worse. But you know why that can pass? I hope you can get this. Do you know why this ridiculous brainwashing can pass? It's because the real truth is being unconsciously, subconsciously, is known. The real truth of someone stuck in the matrix is known by the author. And we must think about the author's intent. When Jesus says, what he's saying, he didn't say hate them in comparison to your love for me. No. What he said is, there's two completely different realities going on. A basic caring, that people care for each other. And he was like, but I'm talking about a absolute, from beginning to end, supernatural love. He was saying, in comparison to those two things, if you want the opposite of just regular caring, you'll actually have to hate the vibration of those who say, like, it's just about caring. It's just about family. He's saying those people who brainwash you that life is about your family, they're going to make you hate your family because you're subconsciously, each person is an individual to be judged, known, laughed with, cried with, or whatever, as an individual person. Not as your offspring. Not as someone, it's just, like Maria said, there's just a blank gray area of chaos, black magic in the family of Western civilization. There's a contradictory, hypocritical, blank gray emptiness that is passed from generation to generation. And like Maria's saying, it's just this simple. For our people, the meaning of life has nothing to do with God, family, or country. Like she said, tell them, Joseph, you threw away our country. Our country was to defend the individual. There's nothing left. Take your flags and emblems. I don't need them anymore. And the people who are hiding behind them are doing it for economic success. The same reason they're hiding behind the Bible. It's a way to divide people and sect and, section people off. Right? We're Christians. We're and we don't deal with blah, blah, blah. It's divide and rule, divide and conquer. And let me take a moment and explain this. Let me explain why you may feel a certain real spiritual connection to like one person or some people that you are directly related to. This is why. When you're born on Venus, you're basically born in the matrix also. If you choose to come here, you sign up and you come here. But if you don't, a AI version of you is there living. Has an official birth, that's your real birthday. Here on Earth, in the matrix. Okay? We know this when we're born. We're taught, we're given like a book about our birth, into worlds. That we're Earthlings, but we moved to Venus because we're so fucked up. Right? But the key here that I'm saying is this information is given you, and the first thing you start doing is probably the very first thing you do, you say to your friends on Venus that you are growing up with, dude, I'm going to go talk to my Earthling mother today. Because she's your Earthling mother, whether you choose to come here or not. It's either an AI version of you or not. But she's going to be your Earthling mother. And it's just known. And all your Earthling relatives are known. And you look them up and meet them on Venus. And you say, you're my cousin in the simulation. And some people are like, little do you know, I've been there. I already know you. But I know the Earthling you. You know what I'm saying? This is how you know the people in your family. Like someone asked me, or Mindy, I think, even asked me, like, what has Maria said about your own children? That, you birth yourself, I said, they're individual people. Their souls have no creation, no beginning, no end. They're eternal people. That's the foundational context to you having a baby. Right? And again, you're going to carry that baby in your fucking body. Although it is an illusion, you don't know it is, so it might as well be real. It's just like the astral worlds. We say all the time, the world that's more real than the real world, because people can't lie there. People lie on Venus, but not like they do here. Because people have so much information, you can't lie about scientific shit. You know what I mean? You can't make up shit about reptiles and aliens and interdimensional beings. Interdimensional beings, you're looking at one in the mirror. You're one. I'm one. Your dog's one. It ain't no bullshit. That's interdimensional. Where are these other dimensions, my nigga? Where are these other dimensions? Where do you think they are? In space? That don't make any sense. Space is space. Where are these other dimensions? And, the poet says on the other side of the mirror. Exactly. How do you get there? Dude, I ended up there. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was going there. I'm telling you, all real knowledge starts. For me, this is my story. It started with a fucking accident. That it's cosmic. It's beyond thought. No one knew what was going on that day. And like Maria said, Joe, that was in early June. Was it June 6th? I was like, damn, was that on the day the world ended? Like, we don't even know. June 6th comes, 6/6. We don't even know, That's the day that the last human being died. And see, these people from Venus, these Aldebaran gods who had took, human beings to Venus with Maria Orsic, that's the whole story. That's why I'm speaking to you. They were rescuing people and helping people, on the dying Earth in 1948. That's the real UFO invasion and all that. It's in your subconscious because it's real. But before World War II, there shouldn't be anything in your subconscious. Maria Orsic invented the modern UFO. What do you mean? The UFO since the last Great War that wiped out all technology, right? The vehicles that the giants used to drive around, right? She didn't invent the very first one ever. No. The Atlanteans and Lemurians were building them. Hundreds of thousands of years were lost after Atlantis Maria sank under the waters. And that's a metaphor for sank under the nuclear winter, that the first man almost wiped itself out right away. We just been dying to fucking wipe out the whole human race for so long. They've been just racing with scientists towards technology to kill the most people. And they just race and fund and pay for it with your money. No money comes from nowhere. Money only comes from our labor. And if you use your money to make money, you're not wise. You're just not a team player. You're just not with the people. You know what I mean? In this whole stock investment world, like Maria said, it's for uncreative people and they can have it. And she's literally, me and Siggy literally had a budget. And she's we literally barely spend money on food. She's the whole world, is focused on food and starving. She's we just came to know ourselves so well that we just transcended food. We were eating exactly what made us feel best. And the ritual sex was at the center of everything. And we would sit in the middle of our living room, face to face, and we would say, Lou, what would be the best things for us to eat? We're in the city now. We want absolute top performance. She was that's what we did. And I've talked about it before, but Maria is just absolute, she's the Scorpio, the esoteric Scorpio, the mirror Scorpio is Taurus. Is the bull, the cow, the mama cow. And she's Austrians were the best people, artists, at fermenting dairy products of all kinds. Cheese, butter, milk. She's been telling me to do this one day. They used to make Amanita muscaria tea with fresh cow's milk. Just milked within days, totally fresh. And she's you'll never quite understand. I've done, everything she told me to do, but she was if you want to go even further, if you ever have a chance, and there's lots of raw milk nowadays, I should do it, right? Maybe that's why I'm talking about it. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about it. Right? So let's get back to it, though. Right? And this is what they were doing. Right? Like I said, they were in their ritual center. And the focus became Maria and Sigrun following, like Lou said, me and Donna dug our deepest. And Lou wants people to know he was the God that Adolf Hitler was going off alone and talking to. And he said whether Adolf Hitler made any military mistakes or not is between him and Adolf Hitler. But he said, look at me the night I met him. He said, me and my twin brother are one. And he was talking about his avatar as his twin brother. You know, it's very interesting also, not to go off, but a little interesting to think about the true self and the avatar as twins. You know? Because it's good for you to think of yourself as separate from your true self. Because you're in technology. So you have to become aware of that separation. You know what I mean? So it's good for you to be like my twin. And like, are twins absolutely one? Well, it sure seemed like they could be. But nothing's guaranteed, right? And you ask any two twin people, and they'll be like, of course we're different people, you know. But on this metaphoric level, the twins have a supernatural connection. You right here, right now, can develop and have a supernatural connection to your true self. And it will cross. And you will be like, hold it, I am my true self. Like I've adjusted, I've calibrated back to. And it's like, someone asked me, if this is true, we have this true self, why don't I just, why doesn't the true self just intervene like God and, help me? I said, listen, when you're dreaming at night and you don't know you're dreaming and you're freaking out and bad shit is happening, why don't you, you're laying in your bed dreaming this shit, why don't you just step in and say, oh, enough, I'm dreaming? And he was like, yeah, that's wild. He's like, but at some point, and he goes, okay, so that's what you're saying. At some point, the true self is going to step in like God and say, listen, this is what's really going on. That's what happened to me. And I'm not making my experience everyone else. I'm just saying that this is what happened. And Maria's like, this is what happened to me. Lou's like, this is what happened to me. You have to, the reason, okay, let me give you a reason why this would be. This is exactly what my true self told me. Nothing. The true self lives in a dimension so protected by energy. He said to me, it will never, ever be risked. I will never risk it. You're a projection of me because I will never risk my true happiness. My true happiness is not on the table. That's why you exist. That's why I agreed to become physical on Venus. I said, hold it, let me get this right. So you're saying you created me, the avatar, because you were never ever gonna risk your own like true peace, inner peace. And he's like, exactly. And with his mind, he was like, that is amor. Like, she's the face of your soul. That will never be risked. I was like, huh? And for real. I mean, it's hard to think about. It's hard to get your head around. It's like two people have always been together. I know it sounds impossible. But like Maria said, this is our quest. This has always been our quest. Does eternal true love exist between two people? They never found each other. You know, you know what? This is exactly what the Bible is playing off of when it says that Eve came out of Adam's rib. She was part of him. Like Maria said, you like this egg analogy? She's like, some people are double yolks. Twins. Not literally, magically, beyond two identical twins. They're magically. For real. And I was saying to her, man, dude, so that's why the first, I swear to you, this is exactly how it happened. Like 2 weeks before, I did 5 grams of mushrooms for the first time on purpose. And the first time I did any sort of high dose mushrooms in 20 years. 20 years. She told me to do it. This is the very first time I ever heard from her. She was like, the pentagram isn't bad. It's the star of Venus. I'm from Venus. I'm the Missouri River goddess. I've told this story, right? But this is what she was getting me to. You know, and she said, I really want you, need you. If you're going to be my initiate, you have to do 5 grams of mushrooms in a bed, in a meditation. I said, when should I do it? I'll do it. When should I do it? And she told me when. And I did it exactly when. And I seen, I guess, the 3, I seen 3 important memories of the people that I had known before I came here. 3 memories of them 3. My best friend and the 2 magic wives before I came here. In a row. Just, I was there, and it seemed like in real time with my friend. And then the 2 memories. And then, all of a sudden, I was coming out of that. And she was like, I'm here. The Missouri River goddess. I'm so glad you did it. I'm so glad. I was here earlier, but I didn't want to tell you. I was like, I felt there was like some of and I didn't even know why, but some of the biggest relief I've ever felt in my life. Like, I said, I felt you. I felt you here. I felt just like when the last time you talked to me. And she was like, I'm so happy you did it. I'm so happy you obeyed. She was like, you passed the first test. You did it on time. You did it when I told you to do it. And I was like, yeah, I finally did something right in my life. And she said, I'm the Missouri River Goddess. This is what I say. This is what the river says, day and night. She's like, you said you can hear the river. She's like, hear the river now. This is its mantra, day and night. Everything is an illusion. Everything. Only eternal true love is real to our people, to the initiate of the Missouri River Goddess, Queen of Atlantis, initiate of Queen Diana Danu. And I didn't know her magic name at this time. She was just like, just call me the goddess. The Missouri River Goddess. She was like, call me the Missouri River Goddess. But she also introduced herself as Queen Diana, Goddess of it. Queen of Atlantis. And with her mind, she projected to me, not the kingdom like you're thinking, a worldwide global government of spiritual energy that said, we will protect the rights of everything living. No force, no fraud shall ever be allowed in our land. She was like, this is the song of the river. Eternal true love is real. All else is Maya. And so we embarked on a long journey of what that really means. Eternal true love, like she said. Let's talk internet data talk. It's a frequency, a data match. A 100% data match. And like Maria has taught me, I didn't know what was possible. My mind was washed of the good things and the facts of the depth of each individual human being, whether a giant God human being or a smaller man human being. Like the giant God human being told me, we were as dumb as you, we killed ourselves. You're no better than us because you killed yourself. And look at what we do. In the time after time, the land before time. Where time began on Venus with the woman who invented the UFO. The modern UFO, that is. And meeting the true self, right? Maria, she talked to me about how she met her true self. And her true self was standing with another invisible person. And she said, this isn't, anyone's standard. She said, the Austrian word for husband came to my mind. And she was like, I was 12. And she said, by the time I really hit, like, becoming a woman, coming of age as a woman, she said, I had met with my true love husband. She's like, check this out, Joe. Good 3 yolks be in that egg? And she said, now I'm not talking about the Matrix. Now I'm talking about the real world. And by this time I was smart enough. I said, well, your boy Odin told me there could be 12 yolks in that egg. And she said, Joe, how could that be possible? How could 12 people be one? And I was in a particular good mood. And I think this is when we were doing Amanita Muscaria, as our only thing. I remember saying, we're wild. We are fucking wild, dude. Who is to say to someone else that on that level, they're full of shit when they live it in front? Because I met these 3 people. Like Maria said, you mean our neighbors? Yes, I mean our neighbors. I've known a lot of people on Earth, but I met these 3 people. Just, each one of them, so beautiful. I feel so old. They look like they're 20. Maria's like, but they're 30. But they look like they're 20. And I just couldn't get over each one of them, how much I just kept looking at each one of them, going back and forth and being like, wow, so these 3 people are one. Like, they're that close. They're just absolutely that close. This is while me and Maria were talking to them in a memory. Maria one night, she's like, I know you've been asking for a memory. She's like, I've thought about it. She's like, can you remember this? That's all she had to say. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this is your house. And I was waiting for her to come out of the house. And she came walking out of the house. And we went, like, instead of streets for cars, there's just wide sidewalks. You know what I mean? They're not for cars. They're for, like, 2 couples to walk each way. I never seen any kind of vehicles. I mean, I did in another vision of, like, the cities on Venus. But by Maria's house, I never seen any kind of, bikes or motorcycles. It's only walking because it's very, very quiet. My very first time, she was like, I said to her, where are we? And she was like, our home on Venus. Because we were standing in the back of her house, like looking at her yard. And it was like I just showed up there. It was like I was going into a meditation, and then I just showed up there. And I went, where am I? Where are we? And she knew it was like interactive with my memory, her memory too. And she said, we're at my home on Venus. And I went, oh my God, it's so quiet. Because we were standing like, 10 feet away from her house in the backyard, but close to the house. And me and her just stood there looking at each other, and she goes, I know, yeah. She was like, an artist has to work, so it's just agreed upon that any loud shit will be done underground at the soundproof loud place. And she's like, believe it, it gets wild down there. It's literally like we have like a little underground amphitheater, theater for plays. It's just, It's wild, dude. It's wild how shit is. If you really wanted to build a community of people to be productive, you would want them to be the most similar to each other so they could flow the best together and not have literal thoughts of force and fraud and shit. You would want people with the same similar principles. Do you hear me? I mean, that's what I mainly see. People, they don't live by any principles. They don't have any inner code. Like Maria says, good sign that they're AI. Where is our morality? It's our inner code of what we know is wrong and right. We may make mistakes. It was wrong, you know. Let me say something. It was wrong for me to take a hit off a crack pipe. I knew it was wrong. Somewhere deep in me, when it hit me, I was like, this is wrong. Why? Is crack mostly natural? Yeah, it's a coca plant extract. It's extracted at a evil ratio. It's so strong that it's ridiculous. It could kill you. It's so strong. Of an extract, it takes very, very high-tech chemistry and isolate, extracts things that extract it that are very high-tech chemistry. You have to like create a whole chemistry to extract only the active ingredient that makes you high. You know what I mean? But is it wrong? Yes. Is it wrong because it's a sin? No. It don't have anything to do with worshiping the moon. Sin is the moon. And we're not going to play into that ancient archetype brainwashing. It's wrong for one reason. It's not wrong because it has anything to do with God and you. It's wrong because it's bad to put something bad in your body, period. Taking a crack is the same thing as eating a donut. Totally unnatural, like commercial donut. I know people create, all kinds of things that aren't so bad. But you know what I mean. Artificial food. Okay? Eating some, drinking some blue drink from the gas station is wrong the same way as taking a hit of crack or sticking a needle in your arm. And I know people don't like to hear it, but the same reason you don't get tattoos. It's not good for your body, thus it can't be good for your mind or your spirit. You have to live by the principle of, I'm not going to do or put anything bad into my body. Just the same way that a cutter, a person cuts themselves and scratches themselves is the same as a tattoo. You can't use a gun to break your skin and inject shit under the skin without it being bad. And you see how irritated it is. So you either, and you can make mistakes. We do break our inner code and we break our principles, and it breaks our heart. Breaks mine, at least. When I do. And I don't anymore. I won't anymore. Am I saying I never, ever, 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 ever eat anything bad? It's strange, but I can't really tell you that I have or do. I won't drink blue shit from the gas station. I won't eat something out of a goddamn vending machine at work, or probably the very worst thing that I'm eating is and if I had control over my diet completely, which is, it's hard to do everything, but probably the worst thing that you and I are eating is if you eat meat, GMO meat, that they're feeding what may be an animal that doesn't live a horrible, factory farm life, but they're still feeding it some American grown GMO soy or GMO corn to make it fatter, to make it more profitable. And what's that going to do to you? Make you more fatter. You're just, like Maria said, in Venus, you are what you believe. On Earth, you are what you eat, right? She's like, come on. You got to transcend that. You got to transcend back to you are what you believe. How? By never putting anything bad in your body. Okay, check this out. Here's something, kind of disguised as bad. People might be like, well, I eat a lot of salads and, raw. I was a raw vegan for quite some time. And when I really, really had it right, I felt great. But that's far from what anyone I know. I was using almonds as my absolute staple food in eating. I mean, probably a pound of almonds in, all kinds of different preparations a day or more. Which isn't that expensive. I mean, I was getting organic almonds straight from a farm for like $6 a pound. It's not a coincidence. But like $7 a pound, the same as what you would pay for like organic ground beef at the time. I'm sure it's more expensive now because that was back in 2011. And I stopped eating that way on command of Maria Orsic. Because she told me that if I was her initiate, that I would become focused and that I would no longer have general goals like longevity. Like she said to me, Joe, you're in a fucking matrix, holographic universe. Are you really going to concentrate how long you're going to live? And I was like, well, you said don't put anything bad in your body. She said, I'm not saying put anything bad in your body, but I'm saying your goal is to live long. And I felt stupid. And I said, well, okay, I'm willing to change. And she said, well, I say your goal is to fight. And I was like, huh? And she was like, the first part of this initiation is you are going to become the warrior. And part of this is a test right now. And I'm sure you'll pass. From this moment on, I want you going on the warrior diet. She's like, that's not a diet. It's a way of life. She used to fuck with me a lot and say jokes that I didn't know were jokes. She was like, I wanted you to laugh. I was like, fuck, I don't know when to not take you literal. And right? And basically what and I've never been able to get this through to my wife. She just cannot hear fucking anything as far as diet and science and shit. Because she's very feminine emotions. She just goes totally by feeling. So if I tell her blah, blah, blah specifically, it's like a suggestion to her. Like she's like, well, maybe. You know what I mean? When I'm like, I'm on the warrior diet, to her, she's like, well, that's good for you. Well, that's interesting for you. I mean, she don't take it as like, hold it, this goddess told you to do this. Maybe I should take note. But basically, what it was, the same sort of raw vegan thing, but definitely adding yogurt, kefir, high quality fermented milk, cow's milk, goat's milk, animal milk. And she's like, I want you in union with Mother Cow. You need her power. You need her love. You got to, she told me, every single time you eat anything that comes from the cow, I want you to, before you put it in your mouth, to say, Mother Cow, connect with me. Thank you. You're my mother. You're my mother. I'd suck this straight from your nipples if you would keep me alive. Before I would starve to death and let my children starve to death. This isn't gross. Like what she was saying is, say to the cow, this isn't, I'm not doing it out of desperation. Your milk isn't gross. It's wonderful. It's my ancestors taught us this. Like she said, Joe, I'm from fucking Austria. You have no idea. Motherfuckers lived and stayed alive off of the mama cow for so goddamn long. She said, even in my household, Joe, sometimes the only thing we had was milk, eggs, and cheese. And she said we had these tiny eggs that were like all yolk. They were just nothing but good for you. Not like today's fluffy ass pastry eggs. She's like, man, we had eggs that you ate and you're like, I won't need to eat for 8 hours. It was like she said, man, these were the miracles. That she said, when I moved out of my house, and had to buy my own food, I realized like those little eggs were goddamn miracles. She said me and Sig would drink them raw in Vienna in our apartment. We'd make these drinks, drink them raw, dance. She was like, keep us full for 12 hours. She's like, if you're a real sister warrior, you get super fresh eggs and you drink them raw. She's like, that gives you the dancer body. Right? How do we remember? How do we remember? What is the yellow brick road? Like she said, check this out. And I don't mean to be provocative. This is everyday shit to us. She is like, when you witnessed me, and listen, she was 27 at the time. And so beautiful. And so was Sigrun. She's like, when I pulled up my skirt, my nightgown, as you would call it, and I urinated in Sigrun's mouth, what did you think? I thought, damn, she's a real shaman. Like, both of them are real shamans. They're willing to do whatever it took to save an entire nation. You understand? They were trying to get the answers to save. It would have been like Iraq when America was about to invade it. Listen, the whole world, the whole nigga-ass world knew that there was no physical possible way that Germany could fight off 100 and something countries. The whole world had decided we can't have a banker world order with this industrial power nation. And if it ever united with Russia, they might, impose on us a world order. And you're living in that banker world order. How do you like it? You love the words free will. An imaginary being gave us free will. I don't need an imaginary being to give me free will. I'm not scared of it no more. My nigga. Ain't that right, mama? You know, Maria, she wanted me to call the channel Maria Orsic, the Yahweh Slayer. How you like that? Mindy knows that. You know when I said that? Like 2015. Maria was talking. It's so funny. Maria was talking about, the whole podcast the whole time. And she was saying to me, Joe, we're going to do this. And she was like, you know why I keep saying it? She's like, do I believe in the power of positive thinking? Do I believe in the power of positive thinking? I said no. And she said, I know the future. And I said, yeah, I know you do, but how? How do you know the future? And she's like, everything's already happened, especially in the Matrix. She's like, your true self is already planned. The whole fucking life in the Matrix, it's already done. She's like, just relax. That's what she's always, a little side note. She's always saying to me, Joe, just relax. You think that you're... Like she tried to tell me the other day, you control reality. Like we think we're creating reality. We're only creating reality inside of yourself. Not out here. Not out here in the Matrix banker world. We're fighting in that world. And she told me, Joe, the reason why the hawk, destiny, showed you that it had the power to make reality repeat right in front of your fucking eyes is there is a bigger plan at play from a bigger, powerful God who is a human being, my God, Lou. I was like, okay. Every time she says that, I'm like, all right, you're right. And let me tell you something. If you're so depressed, let's really tell you something. If you're so depressed, you're so brokenhearted that you feel like, I don't care if I die. I really feel for you, and that really sucks. But that's not practically losing the fear of death. The real loss, let me say it this way. The real way you lose the fear of death is by practicing dying. Like if you were, going to be in the Olympics for the, high dive, you sure wouldn't make your Olympic performance the first time you ever dove off the high dive. By circumstance of like a lottery or something, you got the lucky chance of you're in the Olympics from the high dive and you're like, well, I'm pretty good at the low dive. I'll just make my first high dive the first time I try out or I perform. Everyone in your whole life would be like, you're mentally ill, you need help. Like, you're going to have to train for this, dude. And this is the biggest event that you know is going to happen to you. And yet, when I say this to people, they get mad at me because they're like, "Oh, now you think you're practicing dying." I'm telling you the story that this is what Maria Orsic, the Missouri River Goddess, she told me doing this ritual is like practicing dying. Because this is how I'll tell you exactly how she told me I was out of my body completely. And she's like, "Joseph, look at me." And she's short. She's a short little lady. Yeah, I had to look down at her, And she's like, "Look, tonight, man," she's like, "because I love you. I really love you. I'm going to take away the fear you have of dying." And she was like, "I know it's basically kind of like a physical fear that you don't want to feel so uncomfortable not to breathe." I was like, "That's crazy, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of find it an unpleasant thought to not breathe." And she's like, "Don't you remember in the very first ritual, before you knew you were doing a ritual, you couldn't breathe?" I go, "Oh my fucking God." She said, "That's what happens when you die." I go, "You're fucking kidding me." And she's like, "No, I did that." And let me tell you the background. Let me tell you the story. This is what she's talking about. So in between the time I stopped being a Christian, I first read Graham Hancock's book, something of the ancestors, and it was about shamanism. It was like shamans of the ancestors or something. Supernatural. It was called Supernatural Wisdom of Our Ancestors or something like that. Wisdom of the Shamans or something. And he's who I first heard of Terence McKenna from. And he talked about his own incredible experience of smoking iboga and seeing his father who had died, and he really didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And I was just like, well, this can't be a coincidence that my friend just committed suicide like 8 months before. And here I am reading an author that I had known for 20 years to be a honest, pretty honest person. And he's like, "I tried this because, I was a little desperate. I wanted, I wondered if there was a chance that I could tell him bye, that if there was still a chance that," and he was like, "Strangely, it worked." And I did see him, and although we didn't speak, we got to look at each other, and it itself was a speaking. And he said he gave me a look like, "I'm okay. Don't worry about me." We'll meet again. Right? So I ate. So I listened to Terence McKenna, and he's talking about the 5 grams and shit. And I'm asking like people, I'm playing music, and people that smoke herb, and and my friend, she's my friend too. My friend's wife, I guess you would call her. Got these like THC chocolate bars, and she gave me one for free and said, eat. My friend said, because I was asking her about mushrooms and asking people, "Have you ever taken 5 grams of mushrooms?" I had never met anyone. No one in my real life had ever ever done it before me. And she's like, funny enough, my friend said when he sold me these that if you ate one of these whole bars, it would be like tripping. She's like, so, why don't you try eating a whole bar? She's like, I'll try to get you some mushrooms too, And I did. And this is what I'm getting at about the last breath and practice of dying. I didn't even choose this in any way, shape, or form. But, so I am just I'm 41 years old. And I'm almost like, I haven't done like a psychedelic, the most wildest thing I had done was smoke herb for the last 25 years. Even in 2011, like it had been like since like 91, 92 or something, since I had done anything except smoke herb. I didn't even drink alcohol at all anymore. At all, not even one beer. I was at the point of like, I don't even drink I don't drink at all. Not because I ever had a problem with it, but because I declared it's not good for my body. I don't know. Wheat or I don't know. Whatever it is, how it's processed, does not agree with me whatsoever. And right after that, I had like a glass of wine, and I was like, no, I don't like this. The feeling that was coming on me, it was like kind of warm and fuzzy, and I was like, but it's making me dumb. I don't like that. I was like, I don't like that drunk talk. I don't like that. I was like, no more wine for me. So I ate this whole chocolate bar, and it was way more than I expected. I mean, I would say no more than 10 minutes after I ate it, my mind was in full blown like panic. Like, obviously I have eaten too much. I'm going to throw up. I mean, I was all, 10 minutes after, and a whole chocolate. What's funny is I had not ate a whole chocolate bar of a regular chocolate bar in probably 20 years. I mean, well, maybe not that, like 10 years, let's say. You know what I mean? I hadn't eaten that much sugar in 10 years at once. Probably the most sweetest thing I had was like ice cream or something. So just the fact that I ate a whole chocolate bar, might have been kind of playing into the nausea. But I didn't know. I didn't know because all I knew is I was in a full state of like, this isn't going to be fun. I'm going to throw up. And I was, I ran back and forth. I had like a little bathroom in my bedroom. So I was getting out of the bed and running into the bathroom. What was strange is I never did throw up. And those in between those times, one of the times I laid back down and it was like I was just like sucked into another world, this astral world that I was completely new to. I mean, so completely new. Again, this was like a mistaken mistake that changed my life. But it's no shit. this voice started threatening me, like a man's voice, like so serious, and saying to me, like, we're going to kill you, and we're going to scare you, and we're going to be there when you leave your body after you die. It literally was saying to me, like, you think things are going to get better when you die? We're going to make sure we're there to make sure they're not going to get better for you. You know what I mean? It was making me real panicky because I couldn't control it. I didn't have no goddess. I had no Maria. I had no Missouri River goddess. I was not in contact with the Missouri River goddess. I just did this on pure faith, that desperate faith of like, man, I'm not afraid. She said, eat the whole bar and you'll trip. And I'm like, I'm trying to do what Graham Hancock did. Like, why am I scared? My friend's dead. Reality's a fucking nightmare. It's a, interest rates, mortgage loan, financier, banker nightmare. And where all your time and energy goes to what? Money. So fucking boring. That we can't do anything. I was telling my wife, why the fuck do poor people put up with this? Why don't they surround the buildings of these, so-called lawmakers, the people that steal our money, and give them what they deserve? What the fuck are you fucking waiting for? You think some makeup face fucking politician's gonna love you? I remember so many times in Trump's first term, let me brag on myself a little bit, since I had to talk about how stupid I was. But many times in Trump's first term, let me just say, when most people look at me, they think I'm a left-wing, total left-wing woke liberal. Because I, came from like the punk rock age, so I don't know. I don't even try to look like anything. I'm working. I'm actually, what I'm talking about is people I work with and my customers and shit. That's my world. I don't really know much more about the real world except from the internet and the news and blah, blah, blah. But it's not necessarily true. That's like the perception, right? But the reality is, so just so we don't get lost in the imagery, I'm talking about, I believe it was 350 milligrams, but it was homemade. And some people I'd be like, that's not enough, but I don't know for sure. Maybe it was 500 or 600 milligrams or more. I don't know. It worked incredibly powerfully. Like I said, I was running back and forth from the bathroom, but I never did throw up. And I would sit on the floor of the bathroom and I'd be like, okay, I feel fine. And like a voice, there was a man's voice, I presume is my true self, was guiding me, right? And kind of like when I was a Christian, I thought that was the Holy Spirit. Now I really knew it's me. And I would go back to the bed. Well, one time, like one of the first times, I laid back down in the bed, like Terrence McKenna had said. I shut my eyes, and I was like trying to relax. And like I said, this voice was threatening me. And it said like, it started like being like a crazy serial killer. It was like, I'll cut your throat. I'll bury you alive. I'll strangle you. Like, we know who you are. Like, this kind of shit. Like, I was going, why am I hearing this? What do you mean? Who am I? I'm nobody. You know what I mean? And it started like chanting to me, like, we will stop you from breathing. We'll stop you from breathing. We'll eliminate you from the world, yeah. And, it was causing such a crazy vibration that for more than a second, I felt like I couldn't breathe. This happens to people that take high dose THC. They report this. It's not just me. But I was, I guess, in my own way, seeing what I would consider why. All of a sudden you think you can't breathe because a voice kicked into me. What it was I literally, this is in truth, I was coming out of my body and I couldn't feel my lungs breathing. But I was so inexperienced with it that I thought I couldn't breathe. Because what do you breathe when you're out of your body? Vril. You breathe this inner earth oxygen called vril. It's like a particle from the sun that causes the eternal orgasm. So, a voice said to me, Joseph, your body automatically breathes. It's okay to let go. And I thought, I'm serious. I was so inexperienced. I thought, are you saying I'm dying? I'm going to die? And I swear the voice said to me, no, but this is what happens when you die. Right? And so that was before I ever did Maria Orsick's ritual. And I call it that because she's the one that told me to do it. The Missouri River goddess told me to do it. I later found out she was Maria Orsick. And she's the Missouri River goddess because Donna had moved from the Middle East and eventually ended up in Missouri at the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers because it's a very intense point. It's the most intense point of magic in the West. The center of Western spirituality is where the Missouri, Maria, and Sigrun, the Mississippi, where their pretty little pussies meet in the dance of the wet orgasm that may flood, that you better hope floods your mind, floods your blood memory, that is, because all is illusion, even your breath. You're living in a dream, and you're the projection of the source, you. You're the projection of the ultimate energetic source of your personality, you. You are the name you give you. I said to Maria by instinct one day, why am I Joseph? Why am I Joe? And she said, because I talked to you before you became a man. I go, what? And she had said this before, and it just could not register ever in my brain for many years. Every time I'd be stuck there, now you knew me before I became human. Yeah. That's what we do on Venus in our spare time. She's like, you want to go out there and really trip and go way out there? She's like, you know what's way out there? In there, way in there? Heaven. And she's like, that's where everybody's true self is that lives on Venus. And she's like, my God, she's always said this since 2011, my God always says the greatest work is to reflect someone's true self back to them. She said, do you know why that's the greatest work? I said, no. And she said, that's what makes me and you happiest, is to see that look on their face, to feel that vibration. And she's like, hey, that's what it's come to. That's what we like to do. That's like the gift we like to give to people, just to see the energy, see the reaction. You know, it's like Lou in that moment when I said, who am I? To him, he said, I'm you. And see, that's another separate magical being saying to another individual, dude, it may take me a motherfucking while to explain to you, but you're looking in a fucking magic mirror right now. You're the garden gnome elf. You know why? Because you're the crazy creative wizard in heaven. You know why? All things have already happened. You've always been there. You're the one spinning these tales, and you're the one. You're the true self that jumped into the little boy's body, right? There was a little boy running around saying, Joe, he was just on instinct. And this trillion-year-old spirit, the real Joe, jumped in the little boy's body when he was 4 years old, or 5 years old. 5 years old, sorry. I quickly thought, was I in kindergarten? Yeah, I was. I was in kindergarten. And a car was going to hit my mom's car, and it did hit our car, but my true self moved me away so that I wasn't hurt. And the only way my true self could do that was to jump into the little boy's body and slow down time. Everyone says they're in accidents. You know, it talks about how time slows down. Well, it did for me as a little boy. And what I learned 35 years later was that my true self was pretty goddamn motherfucking powerful, that it could slow down the matrix just enough to save the little boy's life. That doesn't mean every kid that dies in a car accident could have been saved or anything. And I just feel like someone's saying, how does this make sense? Like, how are things still random for the individual when they're living in the hologram? Okay. What you have, it's on a miraculous level. The technology I'm talking about, the nature of a hologram, of course, is light hitting something, creating an image. See, the hologram is like of course, like a metaphor. it is the main metaphor because the tiniest part of a hologram contains the whole entire image. Okay, say you're going to have an image of like a giant castle. Well, the very smallest particle that's making up this image, that's usually made out of like crystals so that it can reflect the image. And the metaphor again is if you reached out to touch the image, it's not there. It's just light. And that is literally what's in the literal sky of Venus is a literal symbolic hologram to remind people of what people are going through when they're there. But it's symbolic. It's not real. People aren't really inside of the hologram. Are you following me? The metaphor is the very tiniest part of the hologram is the whole hologram. And it's exactly the same thing true. The very tiniest part of this world contains the whole entire history in the whole world. And only you are experiencing it this way. And there's no tree to see you in the woods. Only you're experiencing it this way. This is why people can feel profound loneliness. Let me tell you, you're not crazy. Let me tell you, and I'm here for you. Let me tell you, you're not crazy. You contain the whole thing, and basically, on one level, the whole thing is meaningless and a chasing after the wind. And you have to know yourself, and you have to force your meaning into your life. And you must stand up to this technological machine and say, I don't give a fuck if it's a simulation or not. I am who I am, and I'm going to stand up and shout, right? I'm going to come here to be, the only words I know to use is artist and shit. I want to say that. I feel like it don't include everyone, but I don't know what else to say. I've come here to be the artist of my own life. I've come here to be the creative, right? I've come here to be one with the people we can create this together, this world inside this, dimension inside of us in a like relationship. Isn't that what it means? Right? And it's not all sexual, I literally understand that. I feel like I don't need to expound on that. Like, everybody don't want to fuck everyone. It's common sense, and it's very insulting, even for a beautiful woman, to insinuate that every single person's intent is to fuck her. Hey, maybe 99%, but there's always the exceptions. And some people understand that it was like that moment with Maria when she said, I was testing you, you're not trying to fuck me. You're actually scared of me. Like, it's that simple of like, you're insulting, there's a level where you're actually insulting someone when you say, well, you're just an animal that wants pussy. And, what I would say no is that's probably your husband. And that's why he, owns you with providing food, clothes, and shelter for your kids mainly. I get it. You're a good person. You're like, it's for the kids. I believe you. But they're not kids anymore. Once they're like 13, they're not actually kids anymore. But the American economy wants you to keep them as kids. The banker economy, I should say. There is no more America. You understand? Today is 11/13/2025. And this is the banker philosophy, government, military, paramilitary, militaristic enforcement of commercialized, left behind Christianity. If you dare disagree with our Christian bullshit, we'll say you're woke. It's check this out, America. You died 4/20/2024. It's going to take an absolute miracle to even have any sort of future where our technology isn't used to crush and smash the rest of the world into just make America great again, make the whole world boring again.
A woman stands at the edge of the known, veiled in whispers where mysteries are sown. With eyes like stars in the shadowed night, she moves through dark, through light. A dancer of visions, a keeper of keys, reading the language of cosmic seeds. Her curls fall long like spirals of fate as she bends through dimensions and alters the state. They call her a prophet, a witch and a muse, but she drifted through realms that no one could choose. A voice in the void, soft as a sigh, hearing secrets in stardust beneath the sky. The universe. Her journals they speak in code and in verse of beings that cross the universe. The world thought her lost, but she slipped through the seams into spaces uncharted, fueled by dreams. Some see a legend, others a ghost, a figure who haunts where the unknown goes. A whisperer, a wanderer, the chains don't thrown. In the darkness she's found, and in light unknown.